Nathalie Saunderson, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a arena for all conversations that relate back to yoga and the practice of yoga. And not just the practice of yoga, but living yoga in every aspect of your life. So what I want to talk today about is the way that sexuality relates to the practice of yoga, and specifically how we can use the physical postures and specific sequencing to activate this part of ourselves, whether it's a dormant aspect of your life at the moment, whether it's an area that you want to do some investigation around your relationships and maybe refine and reflect on some of the experiences that you're having. But wherever you're at on the spectrum of your relationship to the people that you seem to attract and how you integrate those experiences into your life, whether the relationship continues or not. This is a talk that I felt really called to share about, as I'm currently teaching a month of hip sequencing in my private Patreon group. And I found it so fascinating that, you know, when we think about yoga, we often think about relaxation. We have associations with the practice that are very practical, and we've kind of set the tone for what yoga does and the purpose of yoga. However, you know, that has always been subject to the collective conversation around how yoga is being taught, what most people experience when they practice yoga. And it doesn't necessarily speak to the fact that each of us is going to have a very unique relationship and experience when we begin a yoga practice, or if we continue our yoga practice over, and I'm talking you years of growth, really, as your life continues to evolve. When we look at the topic of our sexuality, it's a similar process, right? It doesn't stay usually in this one-dimensional category. It tends to evolve, as do our choices in relationships, our way of approaching relationships, possibly even the goal of a relationship. So it's this really fascinating tandem of learning more about the way that you personally express energy, how you co-create with someone else, and what the hell the whole purpose of it is. A couple of things came to mind as I was preparing for this chat. And first of all, when I get on here to discuss, you know, a part of the practice or a part of my practice, there really is no script. There is no 3 quick ways to open up your second chakra, or one size fits all to heal your relationship traumas or disappointments. It really invites the same qualities that we need when we're approaching any other part of our practice, and that is curiosity and a willingness to stay open to whatever it is that we uncover. And sexuality is, I think, an area for many of us that we've either already had to do some growth in, or already had to do some deprogramming of what we were initially taught that it was supposed to be about. And when we, as I'm teaching, you know, inside my community, when we are working the area of the body specifically related to the reproduction organs, it can bring up a lot of different types of old memories, or I don't like the word baggage, but it can bring us into areas of speculation or reflection, right? Of really marinating in something that isn't currently happening, but that might be blocked or stuck in that part of the body. It can often bring us into more of a vulnerable kind of experience, because it's not something that we activate necessarily on a daily basis unless we've chosen to. It's an area where we might have some lingering beliefs around how free we feel to express and experience this part of ourselves. And when you start to, you know, physically move the pelvis and activate the base of the spine, right, the core, or let's look at it as a tree, right? If you were wanting to create a healthier tree, you don't just go up to the top of the leaves and water the very apex of the tree itself. You'd go to the roots, because that's what creates a ripple effect all the way up the tree. The same is true with yoga, right? So in today's practices of Tantra or let's say conscious relationships, there's a lot of embodiment in the moment. And that is, a staple that is necessary to really truly be effective and present with someone else when you're engaging with them, even in conversation. We're not even, looking at the physical act of sex. It's an intermingling of energy is actually what Tantra is. So how do we step into a healthier or a more conscious area so that when we do encounter other people and other energies and conversations or opportunities, we can kind of navigate them without feeling either wide open and exposed or closed off and protective. So one of the things that I feel really made a difference when I started to investigate my own background / programming / history is to understand my attachment styles and my patterns was one of the very first and early stages for myself. But to also, this is where I feel yoga practice is so important, is to get in touch with that area of my body, but not just that area, my entire body. Because my entire body is going to be giving me feedback when I am encountering someone else. It's going to be giving me feedback about how comfortable I am in that person's presence. It's going to give me feedback around how honest and open the communication line is. It's going to give me feedback about whether I'm instantly drawn to this person or not, right? If there's some kind of appeal, the hesitation, and without needing to mentally and cognitively experience someone else and be filtering all these little feedback, loops that we're getting. I can go into my body when I have, a practice that really tunes me into listening, and I can feel as I'm experiencing something what exactly it is that I'm feeling in that situation. Maybe I feel curious. Maybe I end up feeling polite, Maybe I feel really excited to be talking to this person. Maybe I feel like, it's a little bit draining, so I'm going to just kind of keep myself a little further back and maybe not encourage that engagement as I might with somebody that I feel really excited to engage with. And all of these responses to when you meet someone are normal, and they're healthy, and they're necessary to help you navigate meeting and connecting with the types of people that is going to either feed and fuel your energy, or potentially you might enter, into a different type of relationship with. That being said, that does not mean that we obviously meet people and no matter what your initial response is, to always be wishing them well, because we don't want to create this idea of separation, right? And then sides or walls or invisible, any of this. Although it's very, very interesting to observe, almost like feedback, to stand still in a room full of people and notice without needing to use any language who is attracting your attention. And when we look at sexual energy, it's not just, again, the act of sex. In yoga, it is the expression of energy. So whatever ways that you've grown used to expressing your sexuality, your sensuality, anything that has to do with who you are on a very deep layer, it doesn't need to look like what we've been taught it looks like, right? So it could be a certain way of moving or walking into a room. It could be a type of dance that really appeals to you. It could be the way that you wear your clothes. And also within this spectrum, as we continue to learn and understand more about ourselves, we understand that there is a spectrum of sexuality. There's more than 2 spectrums at this point. There's many different directions and ways that we can express ourselves. Loosely put, though, relating to the yoga practice, where we use a lot of duality to understand concepts, we have kind of a masculine end of the spectrum / characteristics and traits that we can utilize and develop if we need to or desire to. And we have the feminine, more kind of intuitive and nourishing side to our system, so that when we need to rely on any variety of expression, right? You probably wouldn't start a marathon with the headspace of giving everybody a hug and, you know, really moving slow and listening to the way your feet feel on the grass and getting really kind of into that, you'd probably be very focused and get your head in the ball game. And in that situation, it's really useful to be relying on that side of your nature, to be really pulling in all of your senses to the task at hand. You probably wouldn't be, you know, walking into a room, a yoga room, let's say, throwing your mat down, letting everybody else kind of know that you were really kind of clearly needing to have your own space and time, because the whole idea of being in a room of people doing yoga is that there is more happening in the room than just you practicing on their own. So you might walk in slowly, assess where you feel drawn to sitting, you know, feel the room itself, notice the other people in the room. And as you're practicing together and you can feel everybody moving and breathing, there's something extra that is added to the experience because you start to really feel the ripple effects of the collective, right? And it doesn't mean that you're still not accessing that masculine internal gaze that's very directed and focused, but it's also feeding off of the environment, which is the feminine, which is how to move within your energy and how to express and dance with your surroundings. So if you are curious about this topic, I'd love to hear where your interest / edge is. There is so much to this body of work that I feel it's almost like we're beginners to understand not only the power and the potency of our own sexuality, but the importance of it as people and how we have used this area of our lives for a lot of years to subtly control people's choices and to limit their ability to express and be themselves, because it's a lot easier when people know what to expect from each other. However, that only works for so long before it ends up causing a lot of other issues in our bodies and in the collective. We want to be able to utilize the life force that is available to us because it brings us more energy when we get to express ourselves fully. And you probably know this if you've ever let yourself, you know, sing in the shower and not care who's listening. And it's something that we sadly experience when we're little, this freedom of movement, freedom of expression, and slowly we can step into the dance of becoming more conditioned, where we're told very quickly what is and isn't accessible, or what is or isn't acceptable for the situation or for everyone else involved. Coming back though to what you can personally begin to do. If you're curious about your relationship to your sexuality, if you have been on this road for a long time and you would just like to experience more of it, one thing that I really feel I encourage my students to do is to observe what is pulling your attention, first of all. So this is a topic that's already got your interest. When you are practicing yoga or when you're in a situation that is, you know, around sexuality, I want you to listen really deeply to the type of experiences that you're having. Are you feeling clenched and, you know, a little apprehensive in conversations around relational issues? Are you feeling really, really vulnerable and kind of shaky when we work areas on the mat of the pelvis or in pigeon pose or long, deep holds of the hips? Do you feel a little embarrassed if you have to move into a funny pose with, you know, your butt in the air? Whatever it is, I invite you to start to observe and unpack what happens to you and what your response is when these topics come up. When you're in a part of your life, whether it's on the mat or off, and you start to explore, where am I at with this? Is my relationship a proactive one? Do I feel empowered and kind of excited to discuss it? Or am I a little bit more subdued? Am I a little bit more private at the moment? Am I a little more reflective? Because there's really no wrong answer. What it is going to show you, though, is maybe where you have an opportunity to explore and express, right? Which is kind of the juiciest spot to any part of the yoga practice, or maybe we need to do a little bit more breath and exploration of that area. And all that really needs is simply your focus and your willingness. So thank you for tuning in. If you'd love to subscribe, I'm going to continue to be offering you guys short flows and these discussions around everything that comes up on the yoga mat, but more specifically is really tied into how to create a holistic view and find the things and the tools and the themes that resonate the most for you on your yoga journey. We'll see you in the next video.